Welcome to Home with Michele Broxton. I'm so excited that you're here today as we explore 100-year-old recipes right from our great-grandma's kitchen. Now, our great-grandma was probably making these over a wood stove. You and I are going to share some of the same utensils that she did, like our cast iron, maybe a wood butcher block, and some canning jars. Let's get started making my family's generation-old Texas state chili and some fruit hand pies. Now in this chili, we're going to use equal parts of 3 different kinds of meat. We'll use sausage, chuck roast or chuck steak, and we're going to use ground beef. First, let's get our sausage started in our skillet. Now my skillet is just now getting hot, and that's okay. We're going to get everything started. I hope you're having a good day today. When it's pretty weather like this outside, we love to have chili as a great family meal to come home to at the end of the day. We love to ride bikes here in the Ozarks and go on hikes. I don't know if y'all have hikes where you are. We have some great nature preserves here. One of our favorites is Dogwood Canyon and Wonders of Wildlife in the Ozarks. The Ozarks has a really rich history. There are actually mountains here, and we have 4 distinct seasons, which makes places like Wonders of Wildlife and Dogwood Canyon really beautiful places to hang out when you're outside. Let's get this going. And while that's starting to cook, we will get started on the rest of our vegetables. Now I do have a little more than 1 pound of chuck steak here, so I'm going to cut that in half. This is actually a chuck roast. You can also use chuck steak, just depending on what you find the best deal on at the grocery store. Let's see, I think I'll use this piece. And you can just cut this in equal bite-sized pieces and throw it in your skillet. Perfect. Now, while that's cooking, we also want to put in some chopped onion, which I've already chopped some of my yellow onion here. I'm also going to add in a little salt, a little pepper, and 2 tablespoons of chili seasoning. We'll just sprinkle that right over the top. And you can use as much or as little of that as you'd like. I'm going to finish chopping the rest of this meat, and then we're going to add some tomatoes and some other wonderful things to our chili. This is smelling really good. Let's give this a little stir just to make sure nothing's sticking on the bottom. I really love cooking in cast iron. I choose to cook in Lodge cast iron because it has a nice heavy density to it, and you get a really nice even heat, so no hot spots in your cast iron. Perfect. That'll start sizzling right back up, no worries, and we're going to add the rest of our chuck roast that I've cut into bite-sized pieces. I think I've got enough onion in there for now, so I'm going to leave that half of onion here. I've added all my spices. We're going to cook this the rest of the way until all of our meat is completely done. Then we'll drain it, and I'll show you what to do next. Now that all of our meat is brown and tender, and I've drained it and put it back in our pan, let's add the rest of our ingredients. At this point, if you'd like to taste your meat and you can see if you'd like to add a little more chili seasoning, you can. If you want it a little more spicy, that would be completely fine. I'm going to add some diced tomatoes that have been canned. You can also use stewed tomatoes if you'd like. I just like to make sure they're bite-sized. These are some spicier tomatoes. I use about 1/4 of the amount of these. You can see they have a little green pepper and some hot pepper in them. And now let's add some pinto beans. You don't have to add beans if you don't want to add beans. You can add any kind of beans that you'd like. And we'll give it all a nice stir. This is such a great hearty chili to have. Now, I know our great grandmas didn't do this 100 years ago, but I really like Fritos with my chili. And I'm so glad that they're around. Look how nice that looks. So wonderful. We're gonna let this just stew a little more and get that stew meat really nice and tender for that chuck roast. I'm gonna put the lid back on, and next let's make some fruit hand pies to have for dessert. Now that our chili is simmering in our Dutch oven, let's make some fruit hand pies to have for dessert. These are so simple. You can use a handmade pie crust or a store-bought pie crust. Either way, your family is going to absolutely love them. You can use all different kinds of fillings. I opted today for cinnamon, apple, and cherry. I'm gonna take a round pie crust and just cut it right down the middle. Just like that. I'm gonna separate it just a little bit so I can keep track of what I'm doing. And then I'm gonna just kind of measure for myself about where halfway is. And I'm gonna make a little mark so that I can keep track for myself. And I'll do the same thing for the other side. Just like that. Perfect. Now these are gonna make pretty big hand pies, but if you wanna have enough filling and then enough for a crispy crust, I like to do it this way. You can do it any way you'd like to. I'm gonna make 2 cherry pies first and then 2 apple pies. So let's just put a little filling right in the middle. Now this filling, as it gets hot, it will spread out. You wanna leave plenty of room on the edge for you to crimp the edge and seal the edge. Otherwise, you're gonna have cherry pie filling all over your pan. That looks just right. And I think I'll do another one right over here. After you do these a few times, it'll just come like second nature. That looks great. Yes. Wonderful. Now, if you're cooking for somebody else, don't do what I'm about to, but if you're cooking at home, you can do this. Okay. So, now we're gonna pull this over. Just like this, and pull this over just like this, and match up your edges. Now, to seal your edges, this is a trick I'm going to show you. You just take a little bit of water, and this will seal your pie crust edges. If you're ever in a situation where you've cut your pie crust wrong or a pie crust has ripped, you can also use this to mend a pie crust. So you just put a little bit of water on your fingers and run it along the edge and then press your edges together, just like that. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. My mom showed me this trick. And probably her mom showed her. Now I'm just pressing these edges together. We're gonna come back with a fork and make a pretty edge in just a moment. So I just peel it back, and I press this edge together just like that and get it wet, and then I push my edge together. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. And it looks to me like my filling has scooted a little bit, so I'm just going to move it around where I want it, just like that. Because I want my filling to stay inside of my hand pie and not on the pan. Perfect. Now, I like this next part. I think it's really fun. You can get creative with how you do this. I like to use a fork. So I'll just wipe my fork off so I don't make a mess on the outside. Now remember, with fruit pies, we do need to vent them. So I'll show you how to do that, but first we're just gonna make sure all of these edges, especially the corners, are all sealed really well, so that the juice doesn't come out. Next, let's take our fork and let's crimp our edges. You don't want to push all the way through, but you just want to make a pretty little edge. This is going to bake up so nice. And we're just going to do that all the way around. I'll move this over a little bit so I have a little more room to work with. And I'll just start again on this side. Now, aren't you glad you left a little room? Yeah. Isn't that pretty? So I'm going to move this over to there, and now I'll do this next one. And next we'll make 2 apple pies. This is such an easy way to have a dessert, and it's really fun if your kids are helping you in the kitchen. It's something they can do to help. They can pick out their flavors. They could put their initials on top if they want to, put their initials of their name, and that way they know which pie is theirs. It really makes it fun for a fun family dinner. So I'm going to put C on top for cherry. So I know these were cherry pies. Remember, we want to vent our pies because fruit pies need venting. Perfect. And now I'll do the next one. Everyone has a little different way that they vent their pies. This is my way. I always put little chicken feet on my pies. See, just like that. And now we'll do our apple pies. And then there's a really wonderful way that we're going to brush on something at the very end to make our pie crust golden brown. We'll just slice this down the middle, give ourselves a little room, and we're going to make 2 apple pie fillings. Oh, I almost forgot to mark my middle. There's my middle, and there's my middle. That's really important to make sure that you put the appropriate amount of filling so that it doesn't run over. That's great. That looks really good. Wonderful. Okay, now we'll do the same thing. We're going to get our edge wet, just a little bit. You don't have to get it just sopping wet, but enough that it's going to seal. And we're going to seal this edge, just like that. Press it down. Make sure the corners especially are sealed. And then we'll come over to this side and seal this edge. And then we'll do the same thing to our other piece. Our chili is really smelling good. There are just certain times of the year when things get a little, they slow down, and those seasons are different for each family, but those times of the year just feel so nice. Those times of the year just feel so nice to kind of slow down and spend more time with each other, don't they? Let's crimp the edge. Now, when we do our big pies, we do those with our fingers, and we do that a little differently. With these, I just use a fork, and I think it works great. And for these, since these are apple, I think I'll put an A. Wonderful. Now, for our final touch. We're going to take an egg white and we're going to brush it over the top of our pie. In general, one thing you can remember is if you're making a savory pie, you can use the whole egg, yolk and all. If you're making a sweet pie, you probably just want to use the egg white. So I'm just going to reuse our jar here to save on some dishes. Perfect. And we're going to whip this egg white. That's great. We're going to whip it till it's frothy, and we're just going to put this on top of our pie tart here. Wonderful. I'm going to do this to all of these pies evenly, and then I'm going to bake this at a 375-degree oven for about 12 to 15 minutes. I'll see you back here in just a few minutes. Now that our chili is ready and our hand pies are ready, let's get this show on the road. I think first, let's go ahead and get our chili in our bowl because it is really hot. Now you can eat chili any way you want to. I'm going to show you how to make it good. We'll put a few scoops of chili into our bowl, and we're going to let it cool off for just a minute because it's so hot. It's, as my mama would say, it's too hot to eat. That looks wonderful. Next, let's go ahead and drizzle some glaze over our hand pie. Now, I chose a cherry hand pie, and I've made a powdered sugar glaze. Let's check and see if it's the right thickness to drizzle. I think I'd like it to be a little thinner. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add just a little more heavy cream, just a tad bit at a time. Just like that. You'll find that you like your glaze just the way you like it. And if you want it a little thicker, you can add a little more powdered sugar. If you want it a little thinner, you can add a little more cream. Let's check it. I think I want it just a little thinner. I think this is going to do it. That's going to be perfect. I just use my whisk, and we're going to start to drizzle our glaze, just like that. Perfect. Now, I'm going to just dig in to this cherry pie, and we're going to see how we did. It's extremely hot, so be careful. Doesn't that look yummy? It smells so good. It is so good. And this is just the perfect meal after you and your family have been out gallivanting around, hiking, biking, whatever you've been doing and having a wonderful day. Now, I promised you I was going to show you how to make this chili good, and I'm going to show you how I personally like to have my chili. You can put sour cream on this if you want to. I like cheese and a little corn chips. Sometimes I eat chili just for the corn chips. That's wonderful. I'll be happy to help you. Just follow us at returntohome.org. Visit us online at Ozark Farms on Facebook, any of the social media platforms, or you can always email me at hello@ozarkfarms.org. I hope you'll join us next time, right here. See you soon.